top gunnel line.
Mm-hmm.
Constant curve. When you get up to Northumberland, you get what we call a reverse shear. It's hollow at the back and then it comes over at the front. So you can usually tell them.
What's the difference between what they call a double ender and a flat back? Why did they make the two variants?
The double ender or the Scarborough mule, they tended to be more for harbour use.
Mm-hmm.
It was good to have a good flat back on when you was beaching, because as yours reverse a cobble and yours come in astern, and it skates up on the big flat board at the back. It tends to keep the back end up as you come up the beach.
You mentioned about Scarborough mule then. They also had one called a plosher, did they?
I think ploshing was I think that was more of a type of fishing.
Was it?
It was where they put a net in and then they went and they bashed the water so the fish would go towards the net and get faster than the net.
Yeah.
I think it was just a way of fishing.
So basically you've got your smaller type cobble for your inshore, your salmon netting.
You've got your calf cobble, which is usually smallest, the ones you carry on board a big one.
Yeah.
And then you go up to your 20 odd foot, which is a common one. Then you go up to about a 30 foot one, and then you go up to your 40 foot herring cobbles.
Would the number of crew vary? Or?
Yeah, obviously the herring ones, I'm not sure how many they would carry. They would have to carry 5, 6 men, something like that.
A smaller one would be about 3, wouldn't it, usually?
Yeah, 2 and a lad, you used to say 2 and a lad. And then you've got the little ones, they made some little ones just for inshore, for crabbing and things at Flamborough. They're called 5 plank ones. I've sort of researched into them a bit, but they seem to stop building them in the 1880s. They were just rowed out. They'd probably just, man and lad would row them out. And they'd probably use them for salmoning as well as inshore crabbing.
What about colours and decoration for cobbles? Was that something that was individual, or was it communities? Or?
They seem to, very often for the first year or two, they seem to come out as varnish.
Mm.
And then of course varnish soon looks shabby after it's been worked for a while, and then they started painting colours. But I can't find any evidence the different coloured planks and why. I mean, I believe they did black ones somewhere up the Tees. They were a pilot boat. There's one thing they did do, those at Flamborough, they always painted them orange inside.
Right.
They always done a very bright orange, all the Flamborough ones. And I asked an old Flamborough fisherman one day, why do you paint them orange inside? I thought it was probably a lot of paint had got washed up or something. And he thought about it for a minute and he said, well, it keeps you warm in winter. He says, you've got something nice and red round you. He says, you're always a lot warmer. Which I thought is quite common sense.
That's true.
You feel warmer, don't you?
Yeah.
So there's no link to having each community's got their own colours, or
No.
it's pretty
I
individual.
don't think so.
What you said they're pretty durable craft. Well, what would, if they didn't obviously sink, the sort of lifespan of a cobble, what would it be, and was it repairable?
Well, they're repairable. I suppose a bit like a Stone Age axe. You could have 10 new shafts and 4 new heads, something like that. But I think they would get to a state where they was probably so badly rolled in swell and smashed up that it wasn't worth it. And of course, if they did go over out at sea, I don't think they'd recover them, because if they were carrying ballast, they would go down. I don't think they'd stand much chance.
No. How many? Do you know if there are any people still capable or building traditional cobbles? Are there any boat builders that are still actually making them? If I wanted to put an order in for them, would I be able to do that?
I don't know. There's certainly none down here. I think there might be odd one in Whitby still,
Yeah.
but I don't know at the moment.
Did you want to ask something? What about during your research? Have you come across, who the main builders were, the most respected sort of builders?
Well, the best one round here, in most respects, was the Hopwood family. They built something like 600 cobbles father and son over, I forget how long they worked, but it will be about 70 odd years, I think, they held Flamborough as boat builders. We didn't seem to have any down here. We had a boat builder in Hornsey,
Mm-hmm.
but I think he would be more on the mere with the little skiffs on the mere what they had.
The Hopwoods were at Flamborough.
The Hopwoods were Flamborough, yeah. And there wasn't a lot down the coast. If you look through, I've looked through to about 1820, and there's not many. There was three in Filey about the turn of the century, about 1900. There was
Cappelman and Cambridge.
Cambridge, Cappelman,
I don't know the other one.
and I've got it written down now. I've written it down for you.
Look at that.
It's another C. They're all C's.
Crimlish.
Camish.
Camish.
No, it ain't Camish. No,
Cappelman, Crimlish.
Cappelman.
Cappelman.
Cappelman. Who they were? John Cambridge, Robert and William Cappelman, and John Chapman.
Chapman, yeah.
Yeah.
That's Duncan's ancestor.
John
Chapman.
Cambridge seemed to move on to his son William Hunter. Cambridge took over. But there was obviously 2 or 3 in Whitby,
Mm-hmm.
and there was those Sands End, but I'll lose track when I get a bit there. But not a lot really.
No.
But there again, I suppose they were building quite a few.
Yeah, very specialist market. How do you think the boat's evolved? Do you think it has direct sort of links to Vikings or not?
It's obviously evolved well over 1,000 years, so they've got most things perfected, and if you go over it, they're very, very cleverly designed or evolved, because most things have a 2 purposes, 3 purposes on them. There was nothing, wasn't done for a reason. You get things like the oars. They often had to row them for miles, but they would get broken, the big oars. So they made the oars in 2 pieces. So that if the thin piece broke off, you just bound another piece on. You didn't have to do a full big oar. You just did the bit what usually got broken. And the oars acted as skids if they would accidentally run ashore and onto the boats clear of the sea. They just put the oars down and skidded it up on them, because they were like big balks. The top of the oars were big heavy pieces of timber. Yeah, things like that. Very simple but well thought out.
Obviously, these sort of things evolved is the correct word, isn't it? They've learned all these things over
That's right.
centuries.
If it didn't work, you didn't do it the next time.
Yeah.
You invented another way of doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you found the whole shape of the boat. It's meant for launching among swell and bringing up a beach. And they're absolutely brilliant in swell. And they'll just throw the cells on top of a big wave coming in. You just get it on the top of a wave and it just skid straight up the beach. And if you did roll over, they're really easy to roll back. They're practically circular if you look at them on end. And if you fill them with water, 2 good men, and you could roll them over, tip the water out, and they'd come back the other way up, empty. Sailing them, they were difficult to sail, or not difficult. They were very fast sailing, but you had to know what you was doing with them, because they're not like a yacht with a big piece of lead in the middle, which keeps you upright. They're more like one of these surf sailors, what you get now, these sailing surfboards. But with them being so light, it was basically the weight of the crew what held them up on end, plus an odd sandbag or 2 or a few rocks in with them.
You mentioned ballast earlier, so did they have ballast in them?
Yeah, they get down to the water's edge, and if it was a rocky beach, it was quite good actually, because where they pushed the boats down, they picked the stones, the big rocks and stones up, and they put them in and used them. If it was a sandy beach, you just fill sandbags up and put them in, then when you got out to sea and you fished, as you caught fish,
You threw the stones
out,
Yeah.
and you kept your landing place clear of stones when you came in, you know, hitting them and making holes in the bottom. So that was reasonably well sorted out.
So they always had some ballast when they went fishing. And then
It depended on what wind there was. If there's no wind, you didn't need it.
yeah.
Or very little wind.
It was just to make it stable in bad
It
weather.
was just to try and keep it up, keep it the right way up, basically, for sailing. But they really do sail fast. But when you rig a cobble, nothing's fastened. Everything on it is done with slip hitches and things like that. So you can just instantly drop the sail, the mast will just drop if you get into trouble in any way. Like, they don't go downwind, they do not like going downwind a cobble. They broach, they tend to slide down the front and they dig that fine nose in and they go around and you can roll them easy. So it was made so you could just flick the sails off instantly. But there's quite a lot to sailing them. And the interesting thing, they have a bowsprit on them, which you carried a little jib sail on. This was to balance them because you had to get them exactly balanced for sailing. You didn't want to be steering them, pushing or pulling on the steering. You balanced them with that. And the bowsprit was a small mast really. It was identically fitted to a mast, so that if your main mast went, you just pulled it down and put your bowsprit up, and that acted as a temporary mast to get you out of trouble.
Have you done much sailing in cobble?
About I sailed with these two old lads and they showed me that I started getting interested in doing details of cobbles when I got into my sort of mid-20s, late 20s. And I wanted to ask all the old boys what used to, you know, how the various things they did sailing them. And you could never get a real lot out of them. They knew, but they didn't know really what to tell you.
Yeah.
So what I did, I built a 26-foot one and put it in Brid Harbour. And I used to sit on the harbour looking thick. And gradually they used to all come down and tell me, you know, that should be there, that should be there, you do that there, and I remember this and I remember that. And they bubbled it all out and I quickly wrote it all down. And of course sailing finished 1920s, so there wasn't many left who'd actually sailed.
You said sailing finished 1920s, so what was the next step then, evolution-wise, for the cobble?
They put engines in, petrol paraffin engines. They started actually just before the First World War, putting engines in, altering them round, putting engines.
So the First World War and all the surplus after the war finished, did that
Probably
did that provide a supply of engines?
Probably, yeah. I think the Samothy was the last sailing cobble built in Flamborough. That's 1927, and that was specifically built for sailing, for pleasure. It was a pleasure boat. And most of the old ones, they put tons in. There were all sorts of dubious ways of getting a propeller underneath them, with them having a very flat back end underneath, and meant for beaching.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be quite tricky that, couldn't it, really? Think about it, yeah.
Yeah, you want your propeller out of the way.
Mm.
They, of course, as they started building, especially for motors, they put what they call a tunnel in the back, which is a big bump in the back of the boat, and it comes up above the water, just above the water line. So you got the propeller tucked in this bump, and in the top of it you had a dead eye, which was basically a stopper what's screwed out. And if you've got a rope onto your propeller, you could just unscrew this and put your hand down and unwrap the rope off your propeller and then screw it back in and away you went again.
Okay. And then when did they go shortly after to diesel engine? Did they?
The guys that moved to, I don't know when they moved to diesels. I think it was 1950s, 60s. It was fairly late.
Yeah.
And then cabs became...
Well, they started putting in,
The problem with diesel engine is, of course, they're so heavy. Would that be a problem for the cobble?
well,
compared to
the
petrol
cobble
power.
changed when they started building motorised ones, specifically for motor. They're a different proportion. Sailing cobble's 4 times its width to its length. A motor one's 3 times. So it's a lot fatter. And of course the sailing ones, they had to get them deeper in the water to get stability for stop them moving sideways. It didn't matter with motor ones, you can sit on the top. So they made them a lot fatter and rounder.
Do you know if there was a stage where the cobble had an engine kept the sail, just in case the engine broke down?
I think most of them did. In fact, I think it was Board of Trade regulation that you had to carry a secondary thing, and if I remember rightly, that was going nearly into the 60s. They had to carry, they had to carry a sail to secondary propulsion.
It surprised me, that.
Yeah, I think there's still that regulation still held on.
You can build a cobble design out of other material today, can you? If you want.
You could do now, yeah. You could, I mean, you can use plywood. You'd have a lot of waste, but you could, you could build plywood.
Fiberglass?
Oh, fiberglass, yeah. Well, they are fiberglass. When I started doing little 16-foot ones in fiberglass, 5 metre ones. And them, I mean, you can knock them out. It's like making pies.
Really?
Mince pies, really. Once you've got to spend a lot of time making a mould or plug to take a mould off, and then once you've got that, you just toss them out. You do take about 1 a day off a mould. So you have 2 moulds. You just keep one in the afternoon and one in the morning.